Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Annabelle from BioBuzz. I'm very excited to have you guys all here today for another one of our Career Catalyst sessions as part of our Career Catalyst and Community Office Hours series. So these are weekly conversations designed to help connect you directly with industry experts to help share some real-world insights and actionable advice to help you grow and thrive in your career. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that's impacting everyone in this kind of evolving hiring ecosystem. So we're going to be talking about how to kind of move faster and smarter in today's competitive job market. And whether you're kind of looking for new opportunities or you're a hiring manager, this is a great session for you. We're thrilled to have Matthew Majoros, partner at Workforce Genetics, here today. Matt is an expert in innovative talent acquisition strategy. He brings deep experience supporting organizations from startups to enterprises, helping them to build strong employer brands, craft compelling job descriptions, and navigate a saturated market. So he's going to be sharing some practical tips to speeding up hiring and making better matches between companies and the candidates. Before we get started today, I do want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, BioTrack, for supporting today's session. If you are not familiar, BioTrack has hands-on workshops. They've trained over 17,000 scientists. So if you're looking to upskill, but definitely check them out at biotrack.com. They're a great resource for that. I also want to mention that today's session is part of the BioBuzz Talent Lab, your go-to hub for job opportunities, industry connections, and professional growth. So if you haven't joined yet, definitely recommend getting on there. You can join at biobuzz.io. So get on there, join the beta testing of that. And then I want to let us all get started. So I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Annabelle. Appreciate the intro and the opportunity to join the Career Catalyst call today. So yeah, I was excited to get a chance to speak with everyone, and as we were discussing various topic areas, the evolving hiring continued to come up. So what we wanted to do was take a perspective from a potential employer and also from a candidate's perspective, and kind of share some things that might help from both perspectives. But a little bit more about me and kind of my background, and I've had a pretty lengthy career here, close to 20 years, working with both clients from a consulting standpoint, but also on the corporate side. So I've had experience with enterprise recruiting technology initiatives, leading all kinds of different opportunities to bring in new technology. When it comes down to it, my role within these companies that I've worked with and supporting my clients has to really be to focus in on recruiting plans, strategic approaches, and how we can best position both employers to go out there and capture the best talent. And then, of course, from a recruiting perspective, that's where I started my career, working with candidates to best position themselves to go out there and get the next career opportunity and hopefully get to where they want to be in their career as well. So as we're going through this topic today, we'll hit on a couple different things. The time to fill is one area. When you're talking to a recruiter or talent acquisition professional, they're probably very familiar with that. So that's something that we'll dive into. We'll ask about, we'll talk about why it's critical for an employer to be aware of this, but it's also going to be important for candidates to understand what goes into this, give you a little bit of an inside track into how some recruiting teams operate out there, and some tips and tricks to think about as you're looking at potential opportunities. We'll hit on employment brand. What's an employer value proposition? Do you have a good digital presence out there? And then again, focusing on a candidate perspective, what's your candidate brand? Are you considering that as you're looking for new opportunities out there? What are some things to look at to build a good personal brand in the job market? Job descriptions and candidate requirements, like what goes into that, what makes a good job description, and what are some pitfalls and some things to avoid from an employer perspective. And then as a candidate, what you can look for and maybe look into how to best position yourself to get in front of the hiring manager based off of that job description. And then just market saturation. So both on the client side of things, are there more candidates out there looking for work? And then from a candidate perspective, how do you compete in a crowded market? We'll dive into some of that as well. So this is a pretty busy slide here, and I don't want you to read everything. So the time to fill, what I wanted to kind of dive into here a little bit more was, what is it? And it's pretty straightforward here. Employers look at a time to fill to basically see how their process is working out. So there's a couple different averages people look at. One of the SHRM numbers that's out there right now is around 42 days in order to fill a position. There's a couple other data points out there from 35 from smart recruiters, but I think a fair average of time to fill would be anywhere between 30 to 40 days as a target. Now, if companies are out there doing better than that, that's awesome. There's some companies doing a little bit, I guess, doing things in a greater time than that. That's okay too. But just kind of an average time frame to fill is within those numbers there. The reason that I wanted to share, what recruiters and talent acquisition teams are talking about when it comes to time to fill is because if you're looking at it from a production standpoint and loss of production standpoint and a financial impact on companies, the reason that that's typically kind of a number one KPI for recruitment teams is because it costs money. So if you don't have the right person in place, there's an equation down here. It's a little bit hard to see, and we'll be happy to share the slide with the group after this. But an example was used for a scientist earning right around $100,000 per year. Every day that position is vacant is about $560. So if a position is vacant for close to 60 days, you're probably looking somewhere around $30,000 lost in productivity, and that's a pretty significant number. So that's a direct cost of not filling positions in time. And then obviously you have your indirect cost as well. So the extra burden on current employees, just a bad, morale, taking on additional tasks and responsibilities as that position is remaining vacant. So there's a lot of direct and indirect costs when it comes to really looking at time to fill. So from an employer perspective, pretty straightforward. You want to keep an eye on that to ensure that you've got the right candidates in place, moving through the process very quickly. The time to fill will also help you identify bottlenecks and look for some solutions to increase the efficiency of the recruitment process. But what about, on a candidate side? Why is it important to understand how that works from a candidate's perspective? Basically, if you have the opportunity to understand some of the insights into what decision making is happening on the company and the employer's side of things, you'll have a chance to know like how to best position yourself to earn that opportunity. So if you see a position has been open for more, closer to 60 to 90 days, you start thinking to yourself, maybe that there's, some issue with the process out there. And so those are just some things to consider as you're looking for new opportunities in the market, and considering those kind of indicators as you're going through the job search there. So what are some ways to mitigate these trends? So number one, be data driven. Use the benchmark metrics to look at these types of things, engage the urgency, weighing options for available resources. So if a position's more urgent, if your process hasn't been working to the impact that you needed to, maybe look at some other external hiring needs or external resources for efficiencies. Leverage AI, of course, and again, there's a bunch of different tools out there that will leverage AI for that, and even look into engaging some specialized recruiters for a targeted talent pool. Explore some fractional or contract to hire solutions. Fractional hires are extremely popular these days. As companies are starting to consider, their options, there's still work that needs to be done out there, and maybe budget's something that they're keeping an eye on as well. Bringing in a fractional type of person would be a good opportunity to, bring in an expert for a shorter period of time and then have an opportunity to convert them if needed. So the other thing that employers are talking about is employment brand. So when the job market is, when you're out there competing with some of these larger employers, we work with a lot of different companies of all shapes and sizes. But one of the things that larger employers have, to their benefit is just name recognition. So as a maybe a smaller employer or a mid-sized employer, one of the things that you can start looking to do is, really, beef up the employment brand. And, don't wait around for this. There's ways that you can get out there and start doing this without a huge marketing budget. But what you want to focus in on when it comes to employment value prop or employment brand is your mission and values. You certainly want to hit on your workplace culture, digital presence. And why it matters to the candidates out there is because you want to have a compelling story to share, especially when you're maybe a smaller or mid-sized organization without the name brand recognition out there. What it's like to work with your company, that story that you can share is actually more impactful and can help really bring those candidates over to you as well. From a candidate's perspective, if you're able to really position yourself and leverage your experience as an industry expert too, kind of keeping the same thing in mind out there, look for ways that you can put out and share your experience through different types of, opportunities. Social media is certainly one out there. LinkedIn's a big tool, but from both ends, if you have a stronger brand, you could potentially engage with more candidates. If you have a stronger personal brand out there, you can engage with more employers. You typically lower the time to fill with good brand engagement, and then lower those recruiting costs as well. Employer value prop, like without going too much into the weeds with this one, but it's just something that you really want to have taken the time to position your company and clearly articulate what your company stands for and why people should come to you. When there's a lot of competition in the market, when there's a lot more jobs out there, and from all indications in 2020, late 2025 and early 2026, we're going to have what we seem to believe as an uptick in hiring for a couple major employers in the area. And, it really matters what people are saying about your organization and why people would want to come and work for you. So those are some things that as an employer, you can start thinking about now and just making sure that you're leveraging the resources that you have. It doesn't mean you need to go out there and spend a ton of money. There's different resources out there that you can leverage, but you can also leverage your own people and internal stories. And, again, there's different companies out there that you could partner with to help share the story about what makes your company so special and why me as a candidate would want to go work for you. A couple other things before we wrap up the presentation part of this conversation here today is, so the job description. That's one key area, I think, from an employer's perspective to take a look into. And then also from a candidate's perspective, just kind of understanding, what's most important there. But a couple of common pitfalls that we see when writing a job description, unrealistic role expectations, maybe even combining them with multiple roles into one. It's a wish list, and sometimes we see, we have seen employers that will add literally everything in there as a wish list versus what the actual role requires. So just beware of that. It does have a negative impact if there's, too much in the job description. It will push candidates away a bit. And you could potentially miss out on candidates that could be full of potential that maybe don't have every single thing. So that kind of leads me to the next point here is like, what's the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves? And ensure that you're filtering or presenting that in a way that speaks to, here are the absolute requirements, to get into this opportunity. And then, nice to haves are just that. They're nice to have. They're not essential. They're not required. So just make sure that there's a delineation there. And then, as you're talking to candidates too, don't make those nice to haves a requirement. Sometimes that kind of keeps coming back up to like, well, I'd really like to see, someone that has, ABC experience. Well, if that's really what you're looking for, then maybe that should be on the basic requirements versus, a nice to have. So, excessive length of job descriptions, much like some recommendations we've heard in the market from a candidate's perspective, same thing when it comes to a job description. You don't want to have it be so long. You want to keep it easy to read, very structured. Another thing to think about is, how it's presented out there. Is it presented, visually in a manner that appeals to people and entices people to come and apply for your job? So some things to think about. Keep them uniform too. Try and make sure that all the positions that you're posting out there look the same, just to kind of keep consistency with that. A couple other things that we see here is, are these job titles, are they actually what the job is, or are they misleading? Are they overly complicated? So, you want to make sure that, again, the job title speaks to the job itself, and is actually demonstrating what it's a good title. So you don't always need to have, if I've seen some crazy titles out there, so just make sure that you're keeping in mind as you're titling these jobs that it's going to appeal to the mass. And then keywords from a job description standpoint, make sure that they're in there. You could leverage keywords through titles, various projects that folks have worked on, but make sure that its specific job related terms are in the job description, so they can get picked up from resumes. And then on the flip side, from a candidate's perspective, just making sure that you're reading the job description, and you can actually present on your resume or CV the experience that's relevant to the job as well. So market saturation, this is something that we've been talking about. It kind of comes in waves. Sometimes you'll have a market where it's a candidate-driven market. Excuse me. Sometimes it's an employer-driven market. So currently right now, I think within the biotech and healthcare space, we see a lot of applicants out there. So that's something to be aware of. From an employer standpoint, you're going to have to take a bit more time to sift through some of the resumes that are going to be out there. So again, kind of keeping that in mind, you'll see a lot of job postings out there with a couple hundred applicants, and that just seems to be a common thing. If you're on the candidate perspective and applying to roles too, that's where, maybe not applying to every single job opportunity out there and be a bit more strategic will come into play as you're looking for the next opportunity. There's AI implications on the employer and the candidates, and that's something that we'll get into a little bit too. You got to be able to balance the time to fill with quality and then manage the candidate's expectations. So these are all things that you can do from an employer perspective and a candidate's perspective to help with a bit more of the market saturation out there. So when it comes to handling a high volume of applicants, there are automation tools out there, and if you don't have those tools available to you, you can partner with organizations that can bring those tools to you. The AI implications that we're talking about, like balancing the tech part with the actual human insights, is always going to be something that's going to be critical here, especially as things continue to evolve within AI. Human decision making will always play a role, but from an efficiency standpoint, I think that's where AI really comes into play. And then, of course, I think from a employer standpoint, you'll see some of the challenges you'll see out there, and what we've heard is that maybe people are leveraging AI too much to help with their resumes, and so I think it's even more critical at that point to have experts that are actually doing the technical recruiting involved. So again, I don't think it's going to completely take the human factor outside of out of the recruitment chair, but it's going to hopefully help with efficiencies. But we'll still need to have people in place, experts in place to talk with both candidates and ensure that we've got the right job information out there. As you get the I guess balancing the time to fill versus the hiring quality, it's kind of a catch-22 in these situations. You always want to move people through the process very quickly and try and get that time to fill down, but you don't want to sacrifice on candidate quality. So finding a good balance is a challenge, and what can help with that is a good employment brand and just making sure that you're constantly bringing in a good passive talent pool as well. And then managing both candidate and employer expectations. I just think, working, using clear communication to ensure descriptions are accurate, making sure that we're transparent with candidates in terms of timelines and where things stand, and then making sure that we've got good competitive compensation and growth paths will also keep and retain candidates. It also brings candidates to the table, but also retain them long term. So I think that wraps it up from a presentation standpoint. We wanted to leave plenty of time here for questions. So I guess with that, I'll open it up. I know I just looked at the clock. We're running a little long here, so apologies for that. But what questions do we have out there?